What is going on, everyone? We have another post commentary courtesy of Poiman64. My name is CPAT, and we've got another Exceed commentary for you from the Hallowed Knights tournament. This is going to be week 4 gameplay, a match between Poiman64 on blue. We're actually able to see his hand because he was gracious enough to record the set for us to do some post commentary over, so thank you very much to Poiman for that. But we have a match between Poiman and MrLephisto. This is some... I don't think I've ever run into MrLephisto before, so I have no idea, like, are they new? Or maybe I just haven't run into them before. But anyway, this is a week 4 match. Both these players, I believe, are 0-3, or were 0-3. This match happened over 2 weeks ago, and I'm just getting to it now. So we have, like, the opposite of a winner's finals here. Should be an interesting match regardless. So this is a tournament where Season 6 is allowed, and actually during this week of play, both players had to select 2 Season 6 characters in their roster. So we'll actually be able to see a lot of Season 6 gameplay. But we're going to see MrLephisto on red bringing out the Merkava against Poiman's Carmine. Mulligan Fates has already happened. I didn't really get to pay attention to that. But yeah, I mean, Carmine has only one early dissolve, which means that if that dissolve gets teched or removed somehow, Carmine could be in a little bit of an early jam. As Merkava initiates a strike here, this could be Merkava's Coffee Shape, which is a 3-6 at close 5. Not Cling, because Cling requires to be placed in a space. Could also be Merkava's Dive-like. I forget what it's called. It's like don't remember the name. I don't remember the name. Merkava actually has 2 dive-likes, huh? He has Drill Through, which is the 1-2-5, which can be pumped with additional force. More likely, though, is the 5-speeder Breathe Out, which is a 2-4, 3-5. After Retreat 2, you may return this card to the top of your deck. Yeah, there's the Breathe Out. Which would perform really well into Carmine for the most part, because Carmine's kit has a bunch of slows. If you look at Carmine's kit, I mean, there's Thrust, there's Pulverize, which is an additional focus, which is an additional focus, like, except it's up to range 3. You have Spin, which is, okay, yeah, and there's the Rampage, which is the card I was talking about initially. So actually a lot of different options that this could be. Obviously, it can also just be the Dive. I wonder if Poiman will go for the Armored Pulverize or something. No, looks like he's going... oh yeah, he is going for the Pulverize. Just went for the other copy. And it's going to be the Eye Breathe Out, so this is going to be a 1 power Eye Breathe Out. After Armor, Merkava will retreat back to the corner. Pulverize, of course, will miss. Eye Breathe Out will go to the top of the deck for Merkava here. As we're going to see Poiman place a Blood Pool at range 2. Range 2 meaning that if MrLephisto wants to strike here, he would have to be dealing with a Thrust. So Thrust can be calculated from one of the dissolves on the board. So that's something that Merkava will have to deal with. Merkava will advance 3 using the Merkava UA on front side, which is take a look at the top card of your deck. You must declare advance or retreat beforehand, and then you advance or retreat X, where X is the power of the top card of your deck. Notably, the Eye Breathe Out was the top card of the deck at that time, so this was basically just an advance 3 for free. Pretty good, actually, not pretty good, super good UA. Although it is a little bit, while it is a little bit prone to RNG, obviously you could swing a block. Merkava has ways to stack the top card of the deck to make it guaranteed. Obviously, you can just mulligan for your blocks as well, your blocks and your coffee shapes, and so on and so forth. Anyway, back to Poiman here, whose dissolve is kind of like in the middle of nowhere. However, Carmine can use the Carmine UA to advance or retreat 1, and then move that dissolve space 1, and that's exactly what's going to happen here. Carmine advances 1 and brings that blood pool onto Merkava's space. This matchup actually should be interesting, because Merkava's pretty slippery as far as movement's concerned with the UA. So maybe... I don't know. Carmine is not... One of the ways to beat Carmine is just with excessive movement, really. Although I feel like really pre-strike movement's probably better against Carmine, but I mean, this kind of movement's pretty wild as well. And yeah, you see that, right? Merkava just flies to the other side of the screen, and then again that blood pool is caught in the middle of nowhere. So the I Rampage will get picked up and drawn for end of turn as Merkava flies to the other side of the board. So it can be hard to lock a character like Merkava down with the dissolves. So it should be an interesting matchup as Carmine takes the blood pool, puts down center, and then he himself steps on center. Back to a range 4 where that I Breathe Out is looking pretty good. Notably, Carmine does have a range 4 option in Spin that would trade with it, with the I Breathe Out 3 for 4. As we're actually just going to see the deflection getting boosted, +1 power, hit gain armor equal to your power. So this basically makes your on-curve stuff, or even above-curve stuff, just being able to trade extremely well. Makes your fasts that much more reliable. So we're going to see that actually get tech hit, interestingly enough, but we don't really have a good combat card here in hand. I feel like Breathe Out is just going to get mashed by Merkava here. What did Poiman play? I didn't even take a look at that. I don't believe it was a spin. Was it a bait, perhaps? Did he play a focus? I think as MrLephisto, you should just mash the Breathe Out. Because taking 3 for 4 at this juncture is like totally fine, I guess. It is the focus played from Poiman. I don't know why I'm acting like this is something that we didn't know. I just didn't know. So focus will draw a card. That Breathe Out will be probably returned to the top of the deck again. Yep. So the only issue with this is that Merkava's not really building Gauge, but Season 6 characters build Gauge so quickly anyway that this is probably okay. Notably, the other shapes from earlier seasons, for example, Ryu's and Ken's Hadoken, when they return to deck, or top of deck rather, you get a Constellation Prize of a Gauge anyway, but Merkava's does not allow for this. As we see the Slithering boosted before Advanced Retreat 1. Good boost. Good boost. So now we're looking at basically a range 3 mix-up that's executed from range 4 from Merkava, namely like this Spike Assault mix-up. Notably, Carmine can a little bit neutralize this just by taking a step back and placing that blood pool in front. Although, if that happens, I mean, that blood pool is just kind of in the middle of nowhere, which is just a little bit unfortunate. Just the early game only having that single dissolve. I mean, if you catch Carmine with only one dissolve in the early game, that's when you're supposed to make things happen, right? Because sometimes Carmine just won't draw as many blood pools as he needs. So we're going to see Carmine step back Wild Swing. So this is like screaming from Merkava to... I mean, this is range 5, right? So range 5 means the only options that hit will be the Coffee Shape, one of which was just boosted, and the I Rampage, one of which was just boosted last turn. So the step back Wild Swing, just kind of neutralizing the boost. Using Spike to attempt to neutralize the boost. Merkava can obviously also play shapes that work at range 4, so Dive works as well as the Breathe Out. So yeah, it is going to be the Breathe Out. Carmine Wild Swing's Cross. So yeah, that dissolve will go to Gauge, and then Merkava can choose either range 7 or range 8 to sit at with the I Breathe Out. I Breathe Out notably has an after effect of return to top of deck, so Merkava will choose to return it to the top of deck and then prepare. We're not going to get range 8. At the very least, the first dissolve placement from Poiman wasn't the best, or it wasn't the best looking, rather. I guess it is tough to catch Merkava, but because of the before ability on dissolves, that goes to Gauge and can be used later. Unfortunately, Carmine can't exceed because Carmine actually hasn't built up another Gauge outside of that and has used the focus early on not to veil off, but as a combat card to kind of bait out something from Merkava. So no veil off, as we're going to see Merkava use the air dash to close 3, sitting at range 5 now. Still a little bit awkward, although now we have drawn a blood pool, so things are better. I mean, range 5 is a little bit tough, although we do have a spin in the hand, which would hit at 5, and obviously you can place it closer to Merkava and threaten that thrust as well. Again, Merkava not really having the best range 5 options, but there you go. There's a Cling, I Persistently Cling, played face up, just raw, 7 power. You basically need an assault or a dive to dodge this. Notably, Poiman has a block, so you can block it. That's a tool I neglected to mention the last time I talked about range 5 options. It's just the I Persistently Cling, just another just super powerful answer. So Spin will actually also dodge it, funnily enough. So Spin has an after of moving forward X amount of spaces. That Cling will return to hand, so not really too much lost for Merkava. Spin will obviously miss. Cling returning to hand, obviously not the result Merkava was looking for, as Carmine moves a little bit closer and maybe now a little bit more comfortable with this range at range 3 with the second dissolve down, but I mean, nothing lost there for Merkava as far as resources were concerned. Just the end of turn draw, which is obviously you can't get at the end of a strike. Anyway, back to Merkava here. Blood Pool at range 1 from Merkava. It's obviously threat, fast-slow threat, both online. We can actually see Poiman's hand, so we can actually see the EX Thrust and the Pulverize there. I mean, you should assume that Carmine has the slows. So we're going to play single thrust. This is going to be a 5 power, 6 speed thrust. Agitate will work. So Agitate has exactly 5 guard. So the thrust will go first. We'll trigger the blood pool. It will hit for 5. And then I Agitate will hit afterward back for 5. And then we'll push or pull 6. So yeah, Carmine goes back to the other side of the board at the end of that. And yeah, so far a little bit, I mean, this is the Merkava experience, right? Just a very annoying character to fight, very slippery, very difficult to catch up. We're going to see Carmine flip finally, so now the dissolves from Gauge are now playable, as we see another I Persistently Cling come out. Probably just going to go into the space. Should go into the space. What? Okay, I'm assuming he struck into the space. That you blank this at the end, we're going to be Wild Swing, which is a little bit unfortunate. Carmine Wild Swings the Assault, so the Assault will dodge the I Persistently Cling at range 8. Rather fortuitous, as we see Carmine place the Blood Pool at range 2 for Merkava and step in. So at range 5, the only threat we have is Spin. Dive, notably, in this position would not work. So we're looking at Spin, and we're looking at, of course, the second copy of Thrust. Or threats that Carmine is projecting to Merkava at this point in time. Back to Merkava here. Notably, you can just attempt... You can't really fully safely attempt another Cling on Carmine's position. You know that Carmine did Wild Swing. But now that Thrust is online Spin is online as a threat. Spin would be a 6 power move, which pops the 5 guard of I Persistently Cling. A little bit of a downside to that card. Obviously, that card is still very, very, very strong. But a little bit of a downside to that card, having only 5 defenses, so losing to the 6 power of a Spin plus a Dissolve. So can't play that for free. Maybe there's a world where Merkava takes that risk anyway. Carmine is a pretty strong character. And you kind of do need to push the envelope against him a little bit, especially when he's not in a super advantaged state. And I would not consider this to be a super advantaged state for Carmine at this point. So maybe not the worst idea in the world. So we see this is the first real lull in the action. Looks like we're actually going to be striking face down. So this is going to be a Capture and Devour or a Rampage. Both of it which will be caught by the Pulverize, I believe. Yeah. Actually, no, the Pulverize will... Okay, so the Pulverize will catch it. However, won't trigger the Blood Pool because of the Pusher Pull 1. So the Rampage will do 2 damage after armor, and then the Pulverize will hit back for 4. Will push Merkava back to maximum range. Merkava's already at maximum range, so it doesn't matter too much. Notably, Carmine does have some blood pools in hand now, so Carmine should be starting to get cooking soon enough, as we're going to see Carmine place the blood pool at range 1 and then step up. Now threatening a grasp, for example. Actually, we see a grasp in Carmine's hand. I don't know why I keep talking like we don't know what's in Poiman's hand. I guess I'm not really looking all the time. We're going to see Merkava execute the Merkava action, and Merkava, of course, knew that the top card was sweep. Because Merkava did nothing but strike on his turn. So we'll move to the other side of the board. Carmine will play a blood pool from hand. Now 3 of them onto the board. So if Merkava gets a stun now here for Carmine, Carmine is looking in extreme danger. Not extreme danger, but like looking pretty bad if Carmine drops 3 blood pools down. Notably, Carmine does have the thrust in hand. It's the fast option, so you can't just like. That's something that's it's like almost a get out of jail free card thrust in a sense, being 6 speed. We're gonna see the just defense come out here from Merkava, so +3 armor now strike after lose all armor. Is this a just defense spike? Is my question. It is the just defense spike. Oh no, just defense spike. 5 power, 3 blood pools go down. Super unfortunate. I just want to give myself a pat on the back. That was a very good call out by me, but yeah, wow. Very well called out. Luckily, Carmine does have 3 blood pools left in deck. 2 of them are currently in the hand. 1 gets placed down. At range 2 for Merkava. And we're going to see Merkava advance 0 with the block. Sometimes that happens, right? Nobody block can get red, but Carmine not choosing for that. Carmine playing an undercurve option and gets popped by the wild swing. Oh no. The I breathe out doing 3 damage will pop the other blood pool down. Now 4 dissolves in the discard, and things have gone so badly for Carmine here. Another strike will be initiated by Merkava, this time from hand. That normally that I breathe out was returned to the top of the deck. Probably just it's the Ultra I Resentfully Rage 1-3 6-5 hit push until the opponent's at range 5, getting some distance as well. Just such an annoying character. That Wild Swing sweep will not do any favors for Carmine. Carmine will get hits. I Resentfully Rage will now go to the top of the deck. So now if Carmine chooses to move in any amount of distance, that frontside Merkava UA can just advance him 6. And now we're going to see the tech hit come out. So now 5 in the 5 dissolves in a discard, and then the Persistently Cling on top of Carmine. This is very good Merkava gameplay. The Wild Swing Grasp not going to do it. Merkava taking game 1 quite convincingly over Poiman's Carmine. Just unable to get going. Merkava too slippery for the setups, and then of course that just defense spike that we called out was the play for MrLephisto, and basically just shuts out Carmine, not shuts out, but rather destroys Carmine's setup. Carmine having 3 blood pools down when that just defense spike came out. And, I mean, what can you do as Carmine from that point? And it's just Merkava, the slippery nature of Merkava, too difficult. Too slippery for Carmine to catch. So this is a best of 5 tournament with character elimination. So once you win with a character, that character is eliminated. You can no longer pick them for the rest of the set. So Poiman's roster is Zangief, Carmine, Hilda, and MrLephisto's roster is now going to be Enkidu and Sagat. And we're actually going to be seeing the Enkidu come out from MrLephisto and Enkidu Carmine. This is a matchup I've never played before or thought about. Notably, you can't really zone out Enkidu, but I don't really think you need to zone out Enkidu, perhaps. Perhaps you can just try to outtrade him from a mid-range standpoint with dissolves if you're Carmine. So, I don't know, should be an interesting matchup for sure. Like we noted in the last commentary, Enkidu has advance on basically every single card, so you cannot zone out this man. I wonder if Enkidu can cross over Carmine enough. I feel like the answer is no, but maybe. I mean, Enkidu does have just a lot of just pure advances in his kit. But should be an interesting matchup. Looks like Carmine will be going first here. Does have one dissolve in hand. Has the range 4 option and spin. Will be going first, so probably wants to find a better range 4 option, or range 3 option rather, with the blood pool than the cards that he has. And now he's drawn a spike. Poiman has drawn a spike and assault, so that's looking pretty. This hand's looking pretty alright. Maybe you want a second dissolve in your hand, just because if that early dissolve gets tech hit, you're in for a bad time. Dissolve goes in the center space, which is... Wow, okay, so we're actually going to just see a tech hit wild swing from Enkidu. So spin is looking pretty free here. Sweep and spike will also do okay. It's actually going to be the second block that Enkidu wild swings. So that block will go to Gauge. And now here's the early Carmine problem that we were talking about. Although Carmine does have spin in hand for the Rhine Blood, sometimes Carmine doesn't really get multiple early dissolves to work with. And that's when you're supposed to strike into, not strike literally, but that's when you're supposed to be aggressive into the Carmine. Is when Carmine doesn't have those early game dissolves like he will later into the game. But we see the Rhine Blood come out, take 1 non-lethal damage, play a blood pool from the discard, advance retreat 2. And Carmine will advance to now threatening range 1 options with +2 power on him. As we're going to see an expenditure of 3 force. For what? We're going to see an expenditure of 3 force to change cards 3, draw 4, drops a 3 precept into the discard. Notably, Enkidu's UA can get those 3 precepts back, so not the biggest deal in the world. Carmine initiating a range 2 spike here. This is pretty aggressive, pretty spicy. Notably won't trigger the blood pool that's currently on the board. But I mean, gets the focus, gets the read down. Enkidu takes 5, dropping the focus into the spike. Back to Enkidu here. That's a pretty spicy gameplay from Poiman. A little bit aggressive, but we know that Poiman is an aggressive player. But in that case, definitely worked out for him there. Built up that first Gauge as well. As we're going to see the tactical come out. +1 speed, now advance to retreat 1. Season 6's favorite boost. We're going to see Carmine initiate an assault into this. Carmine possibly like trying to bait out the counters, or try to bait out like a mid speed here to try to beat a slow. Because Carmine's basically saying, okay, I'm going to try to play a slow here. But no, Carmine actually initiating with the assault to try to beat the mid speeds, which beat the slows. We got a little bit of Yomi action going on here. Notably, this assault can trigger the blood pool if Carmine desires. This would be a 1/6/5. A wild swing dive, and Carmine is gonna eat that up for breakfast. That's gonna be a 6 power assault coming in, beating the wild swing dive. Enkidu takes 6 damage. That blood pool now in discard, so Carmine into Gauge, excuse me. So Carmine, gonna flip. Pretty standard stuff right there. Really good early start for Carmine here. Only 1 dissolve to work with so far, but has the early health advantage. MrLephisto initiating strike at range 1. Carmine just gonna mash the slows. Funnily enough, Enkidu's playing second dive to get out of the corner. Don't really see too many people go for that. I go for that a decent amount in casuals. By decent amount, I mean not a lot, but I go for that sometimes in casuals. By Enkidu getting out of the corner like that, focus drawing Carmine his second dissolve and will be played on the board at range 1. Back to Enkidu here. Notably, Enkidu, I feel like, is a character that benefits a lot from the range 3 mix-up cards, so seeing both dives go down this early is kind of sad. Especially if you're trying to mix things up with your 3 precepts, if you're trying to go for dives and spikes. Notably, both dives are now down. So only spikes left in the deck of MrLephisto for mix-up opportunities, outside of course, like a chained kick with a billion power and a billion guard, but we're looking at the discard here. We only see 1 3 precept strike in the discard for MrLephisto, so 5 more left in that deck. Let's see if Poiman just mashes the Pulverize. Does he go for a Wild Swing? Does he go for a block? I don't know. I feel like you just go for the Pulv over the block. Yeah. And Enkidu crossing out to range 6. That dissolve will go to the gauge for later use for Carmine. Enkidu initiating across at range 3, moving back to range 6. Obviously, as we say before, Enkidu has Reckless Run to quickly move. Enkidu can slowly move with the UA, but it's definitely an interesting decision there for sure. As we see Carmine pop a dissolve at range 2 from Enkidu, which will now be range 1 as Enkidu uses the Enkidu Prepare action, returning a 3 precept to hand from the discard, and then moving in. As we see Carmine place a second blood pool down, now the players are at range 3 with 2 blood pools between them. That is a 7 power grasp that is being threatened by Carmine at this moment. Enkidu really needs to find a way to try to cross over. We'll initiate a strike instead. I mean, it's going to get met by the 7 power grasp, and that spike is not going to do it. Only 4 defenses, and I mean, Carmine pretty well set up there for that strike with 2 blood pools down. Enkidu really needed to get out of there. And the spike's not going to do it. Of course, those dissolves will be back into the gauge for later use. That later use, of course, is going to be right now. Of course, there's resolving the hit effect on the grasp. You have to push or pull 1 or 2. As we're going to see Enkidu get pushed back into the corner. Carmine does the Carmine shuffle, advances 1, and places a blood pool at range 2 from Enkidu, range 1 from himself. Back to Enkidu here, who nothing has gone right for Enkidu this game. No resources, no 3 precept strikes in the gauge even. Has lost every mix-up. Now down 2 dives and a spike as well, and those are kind of cards that are pretty critical into Carmine's late game, especially if Carmine is caught with a bunch of slows. And wants to try to outtrade with like an 8 power slow, for example, with 2 dives and a spike down. That's going to be extremely hard for Enkidu to trade up with those. Definitely super advantaged Carmine in this position, as I probably don't really need to tell you that, but so we see MrLephisto initiate another strike at range 3. Yeah, you just mash sweep here 100%. Oh, gets caught by the second spike. Unfortunately, that's the last mid-speed in Enkidu's deck, outside of, what, the chain kicks, if you can even call them mid-speeds. They don't really functionally become mid-speeds until late game, where you have multiple 3 precepts in the gauge. Back to Carmine here, who will place you blank, this is the end at range 2, and take a step back, interestingly enough. Notably, we can see Carmine's hand. It's pretty dead right now. But of course, Enkidu at range 4 doesn't really have a whole lot going for him. As we're going to see change cards 3, drawing 4 from MrLephisto. Enkidu at range 4 doesn't really have a whole lot going for him. Really needs to be at that range 3. So we see another dissolve come out. Now 2 dissolves set up. At range 2, range 3. This focus is just looking so free. With both dives and both spikes down for Enkidu at this point in time. I wonder if it would even be worth it to go for like an early reshuffle. We're going to see a Reckless Run come out in the form of on the chain kick. We're probably going to see Enkidu spend 1 more force to just cross over. Yeah, drops another 3 precept strike. Enkidu now on the other side of Carmine. I wonder if we see maybe a revert into a step back. No, we're actually just going to see the blood pool being placed at range 1. on top of Enkidu, or actually underneath Enkidu, I guess, not on top of, underneath Enkidu. Back to MrLephisto here, who is again out of mid speeds. So the combat options are pretty telegraphed now. From range 3, which is Enkidu's kind of strong suit. No 3 precepts, so those no 3 precepts engage. So those 3 precepts don't really become functioning mid speeds. They're just really bad fast. They're just really bad on curve assaults at this point in time. As we see a Just Defense come out, plus 3 armor, now strike after lose all armor. Just Defense what? Just Defense Assault? Just Defense Thunderstomp? Just Defense... The Thunderstomp's the one that makes sense to me. I feel like you smash focus or give me that. Yeah. It is the Thunderstomp. Thunderstomp will go first and will lose all armor. So Thunderstomp will deal 2 damage to Carmine. And yeah, there's the downside of Just Defense, right? Just Defense at range 1 like that, you just play a 1-speeder in response, and Carmine has an additional 1-speeder and give me that as well. So yeah, I mean, that Just Defense basically just makes that Thunderstomp drop the additional armor that it had. And now Enkidu takes 6 damage for it, as we're going to see Carmine place the Blood Pool at range 1 from himself and take a step back. Or actually, technically underneath him, and then take a step back, so now there's Blood Pool at range 1. Carmine now has the spin, which is basically unbeatable. At range 1 to 5 from that board position is basically unbeatable. Since Enkidu is completely out of mid speeds once again. So this should be a wrap for Carmine. Carmine should be able to close this game out no problem. Really, the only way I see Enkidu winning this game, outside of a Carmine throw, would be like an early reshuffle into just luckily drawing all the mid speeds. We're gonna see MrLephisto prepare here. Carmine taking this as an opportunity to place another blood pool down, notably 4 blood pools down for Carmine at this juncture on the board, which is pretty scary for Carmine as Enkidu initiates an EX attack. As long as this is not EX sweep, so you smash the spin, right? Notably, there's no way spin gets stunned, I believe. So you just smash spin. We're actually going to be mashing Give Me That, which is a 1 to 3. I mean, it's EX3 Precept, it doesn't really matter. EX3 Precept will hit back. Actually, Give Me That actually... oh yeah, Give Me That also kills, so... whatever. Game 2 going to Carmine, and super convincing position. At the end there, I had no idea how Enkidu was going to come back from that outside of a super lucky reshuffle into getting those mid speeds back into the deck, but not meant to be. Carmine taking game 2 in super convincing fashion. Poiman has 2 characters left on his roster. Those 2 characters are Hilda and Zangief. MrLephisto will be forced to give Enkidu another shot for game 3 here. So should be... I wonder who Poiman will go for. Hilda or Zangief. Maybe Zangief would have a fun time into... Would Zangief have a fun time into Enkidu? I mean, I guess Enkidu likes to stand a little bit further away than Zangief. Doesn't matter. We're actually going to be seeing the Hilda come out. Hilda an interesting choice because, like we said, these Season 6 characters... they're difficult to zone out. Now, notably, I think I've said this in every video where there's been a zoner and a Season 6 character involved, but Season 6 characters have multiple ways in the normals themselves to advance. They have both Respect and Air Dash. On top of that, they generate a lot of gauge, so you can just use a bunch of gauge to just move in, right? And Enkidu himself has Advance written on every single card, except for 3 Precept, and 3 Precept has Close written on it. And Enkidu also has Reckless Run. Enkidu also has... So, Hilda's backside involves pushing or pulling, right? So, it's, Hilda's backside says basically spend a gauge to push one, pull one, or draw one. Enkidu notably has an ultra boost that says you cannot be pushed or pulled. So that performs super well to Hilda as well. Enkidu has a good amount of tools to deal with Hilda's annoying possibilities. So this should be an interesting matchup for sure. As we see Poiman Mole 3 keeping a Skewer in hand. I mean, Skewer is such an obvious turn 1 play. Everyone goes for it. You can't really do a whole lot against it. Against the Skewer. Only 2 power, but such an annoying card. Can't even stun as well, but such an annoying turn 1 play. It just always works, right? Just always works. You basically need like a guarded fireball or a guarded dive that hits at range 5, as we're going to see the Hilda UA come out. A range 3 mix-up now becomes a range 4 mix-up here, and it's going to be the range 4 spike at 4 power. Enkidu basically just needs to dive it and cannot dive it. Notably, yeah, I think dive is the only answer to the Hilda turn 1 UA spike. Dive or cross, I think, are the only answers. If I'm not mistaken, because I think the other stuff just doesn't advance far enough. All of his advances on his combat cards are range 1 or range 2. Hilda taking an early lead here with the spike, as we're going to see the respect come out from Enkidu. Full distance, moving to range 1. I expect Hilda to strike with a sweep or a focus here. Yep, it's going to be the sweep. Notably, Enkidu does not have any sort of special thing to deal with sweep. Sweep can get blocked, so Poiman's going to be able to pull a card from the hand. Pulls an assault, so that's an air dash gone. Enkidu drops a 3 precept and will take 2 damage. Obviously, those 3 precepts can come to hand super quick. I expect Poiman to just prepare here. Actually, no, it's actually Enkidu's turn. Enkidu action. Enkidu prep. Return that 3 precept, which was just discarded back to the hand. Back to Hilda here. Only 3 cards in hand, so I assume this is just going to be a prepare action. Could, in theory, be a VO. Early VO, maybe push Enkidu back and then prepare again. Next turn, something like that. We're actually going to see the power attack come out. Hit +1 power, gain advantage, add to gauge. Interestingly enough, as Hilda draws her version of Persistently Cling in the Condensity Gloom. Notably, Condensity Gloom allows you to teleport there afterward. Teleport to where the Condensity Gloom is afterward. So just I believe it's an optional as well. You don't have to teleport there. So just a super solid card. Obviously, the downside to it is that only has 5 defenses, so it'll lose to an offensive sweep. But I mean, very good combat card there. That Condensity Gloom. Back to Enkidu here. Sitting at range 1, which is a little bit closer than he would like to be, admittedly. As we're going to see, then we're going to see a mix-up step back into a strike. I expect this to be an undercurve, because I don't expect it to be a cross. So I expect this to be undercurve, maybe just a 3 precept. Hilda responding with the Triforket. It's the spike, the classic mix-up into spike. Unfortunately, Triforket goes first and will hit back for 5 and will stun out the spike. A little bit of an ambitious play there from MrLephisto, right? So with that +1 power, a lot of the it just means that 4 power just breaks the guard of spike, which is not normally the case. So I mean, super unfortunate there. Notably, the hit effect of getting the extra gauge or the recursion doesn't work because Hilda actually has no cards in her discard yet. As we take a look at the Revi pillar for some reason. I mean, at worst, it's a +2 power, right? So it's not a bad boost at all. And yeah, we're actually going to see it come out, especially with the cross in hand. The chances that Enkidu initiates with his own cross are pretty low. Because Enkidu does not want to end up at range 5. Enkidu can and does have the reverse DP, on the form of Gale Edge, 2 to 3, 6, 2. As we're going to see a reading come out from MrLephisto here. So again, a reading into an EX. Looks like the reading has whiffed, however. We see a hand of 1, 5, 6, Condensing Gloom. Again, we knew that this hand existed, so I don't know why we're talking like that. So what is this, EX3 Precepts, I'm assuming? From Enkidu? Mathematically, I don't think it can be anything else. I don't even see any cards left in MrLephisto's hand. So this is just confirmed EX3 Precept. Right, I wish Poiman would just move his camera just a little bit up just so we can see the hand situation from Enkidu. But now, I mean, again, we're... Oh, okay, 3 cards in hand for Enkidu. So this can be something else besides 3 Precept. I mean, the Telegraph is 3 Precept. 3 Precept would be 4 power, so responding with Condensing Gloom would be okay. Responding with Focus would be better than Condensing Gloom, though, because with the Focus, actually, gets the +2 power, right? Actually, Condensing Gloom gets the +2 power as well, because it's an after. Maybe save the Focus for a VO next turn. VO, of course, being Veil Off. The Condensing Gloom going to be placed there? That misses against 3 Precepts, so I'm not really sure. What? I don't really know what that's doing over there. What? What was trying to be caught? Why do you put it there instead of on top of Enkidu? Or in front of Enkidu? Just to teleport out? What are 3 Precept deals like 2 damage, 3 damage to Hilda? Hilda misses with the Condensing Gloom, but will use the after to get out. I mean, I guess setting up the cross for this turn, but I mean, Hilda could have hit, and Hilda could have hit for a good amount of power there. Hilda could have hit for like 6 damage, and brought Enkidu down to 13, but instead has chosen to do that. Now boosts Superior, instead of just playing the cross as a combat card. Definitely not the play I was expecting there for Poiman. Maybe just like an execution error or something. I guess I shouldn't say execution error. Like, execution is something that you can make an error in Exceed because it's a card game, but you know what I mean. Back to Enkidu here. Notably, last turn did pick up that 3 Precept. I think I missed saying that, but last turn did use the Enkidu UA to pick up the 3 Precept. There goes the 4th range 3 mid speed. Reads the Assault, and this is going to be another AX3 Precept, which will be 5 power, against the EX Assault. Hilda will take 4 damage off that. Enkidu making a comeback here. Notably, I think Hilda should probably think about veiling off at some point. She probably should have done it earlier, even. Because it has a bunch of gauge, but it's not really using it for anything. Yeah, here comes the veil off. Notably, if Enkidu has the immovable object boost. What's going on? What's going on? Why is this happening now? Veil off does not have take another action on it. Okay, Poiman fixing this mistake. I'm like, wow, what is going on? Imagine if that was like an unreactable thing. If you could go from frontside Hilda to pushing your opponent to the entire board, that would be just bonkers good. But no, Hilda has to end her turn. Nobody did not draw for end of turn here. As we see Enkidu prepare, so now we did not see the immovable object boost come out from Enkidu, so Enkidu will get pushed back a good amount. We'll get pushed back to range 4, so this in the darkness is super telegraphed. If Hilda chooses to play it, looks like it's just gonna be a push back 3 into a prepare action. Okay. I mean, mix-ups are gone for Enkidu. Notably, Enkidu does Enkidu have a close 1 now strike? I can't remember. So we see Enkidu either spent a force to do something, or to move in, or more likely just use the Enkidu UA, if I had to guess. Close 1, and then return a 3 Precept to hand, and draw 1 for end of turn. Back to Hilda here. Who's on Exceed side, as we see the Skewer get boosted, interestingly enough. I guess boosting Skewer here is totally okay if you have a slow in your hand, because both dives and both spikes are down for Enkidu, so you can trade up. But if we look at this Hilda hand, in the darkness, grasp dive. What's it gonna do? Like, what's this hand gonna do? We got another EX3 precept coming out here for Enkidu. Impalement, not gonna work because this 3 precept is speed 6, so we gotta find something better. Is there anything better? I mean, you just need focus or sweep, right? Spike, not gonna do the trick because this 3 precept is rather empowered now. It has 6 total power on it. Things are looking very good for Enkidu. 3 precepts now in the gauge, so these 3 precepts are starting to hurt. Chain kicks in the future will also hurt as well. I don't know. I mean, the real issue there was Hilda. So Hilda exceeded, right? But it felt way too late, and she kind of like ran out of resources to do anything once she exceeded. Like, she pushed and then she prepped, and then, well, it's just like Enkidu can move for literally free, right? Not even free. It's like Enkidu can move at the cost of +1 card, which is not a cost at all, right? So definitely felt. Well, I did call out earlier that the veil off should have happened. Maybe it should have happened earlier if it was going to happen, because especially if you're just veiling off into a prepare, it's pretty scuffed. Like, if you veil off into in the darkness that strike, you get a mini refill. You gain advantage as well, so you're up to 5 cards in hand after you prepare again. You've spent a bunch of gauge to do it, so I don't even know if it's super worth it into Enkidu, but I mean, there was a potential plan there, as we see Enkidu do the Enkidu prepare again. Yoinks that 3 precept back into hand, draws a card for end of turn. Notably, that 3 precept will now have +3 power attached to it. Chain kicks are looking way scarier though. Chain kicks are now 7 power from the Enkidu side. We're gonna see a jump, fade away into darkness at some point. We can't even fade away into darkness though, because we're at range 1. Finally, we do have a slow here to contest the 3 precepts, but notably, this sweep no longer contests an EX3 precept, as we're going to see Hilda respect to range 3. If there's an EX3 precept in the hand of Enkidu, this is a sketchy decision. So like Enkidu's on center, right? So this respect is basically just equivalent to just stepping back 2. I think if Enkidu has a single 3 precept, he can't strike with it because of the Impalement Ultra. Although we saw 1 go down. Did we see? Surely we didn't see both go down for Hilda. We saw 1 go down. That Impalement Ultra at range 3 would hit for 6 power with 2 range 3 cards in the gauge for Hilda at this point in time. So Enkidu can't just mash that. However, Enkidu can, in theory, facilitate a mix-up with the Gale Edge, the 2-3, 6-2 reverse DP shape. Enkidu can also, in theory, just flip here. And yeah, that's what Enkidu's going to do. So we see the backside Enkidu strike CO3 precept from your gauge. Oh, as we see it taken back now almost immediately. No, we're going to see Enkidu strike here. This is just 3 precept getting mashed. Unfortunately for Poiman, does not have the impalement to outspeed it. Can play the sweep in response, however. Notably, as we noted before, we do have a mix-up here a little bit. So if this is a chain kick, that chain kick is 7 power and pops the defensive sweep. So sweep is not some free card to be played. Sweep does beat Gale Edge, and that we're actually going to see Hilda take a little bit of a risk here, play the dive, and Enkidu actually just playing a normal assault instead of the 3 precept. So now we're actually going to see Enkidu flip here. Strike, steal a 3 precept from gauge to get +2, +1. One of the more reliable ways for Enkidu to close out games. +2, +1 on demand is very good, even if it's tied to an action. Hilda at range 1, not really a whole lot going for her, since that's very good. The early game was pretty good. I believe Hilda was up 30-19 in the early game, but this mid game has just gone so wrong for poor Hilda here, as Hilda initiates a strike from range 1. If Enkidu has a chain kick, I think that's just super free. There's basically no or nothing that chain kick loses to. Sweep into sweep, 6 for 6. I think Enkidu will be happy with this, because now it's going to be his turn. He pulls a card from Hilda, and we'll have his own card pulled, obviously. Pulls a Demon Seal. Don't think that's going to matter very much. Hilda gets her second Grasp pulled. Hilda now down to 7 HP, so 1 combat territory, because Enkidu, especially on backside, can definitely generate 7 power to kill a Hilda here. And yet, we're actually going to see the Enkidu action come out here. So are we going fast or slow here for Enkidu? It's going to be the Tri-Forket. It's going to be the Chain Kick. So the Tri-Forket will go first, hit for 4 power, and the Chain Kick will deal 8 power back and kill Hilda. That is GG. Game 3 going to MrLephisto's Enkidu. And it just looked like Poiman lost his way a little bit in the mid game, as far with the Hilda game. Just couldn't really zone out Enkidu. Couldn't really keep Enkidu out. We did note that Enkidu was completely out of mid speeds, but Hilda could not really take advantage of it. And those 3 precepts, one was landed off a reading, one was just played raw. I think 2 were played off a reading. Only one of the readings was successful. The second Condensing Gloom was not successful, but I guess it wouldn't have really mattered too much. But now we are actually going to see a Zoner versus Zoner matchup, so this should actually be very interesting. We have Poiman on the Hilda versus MrLephisto on the Sagat. So this is the first time we're actually seeing a Season 6 versus a non-Season 6 in this set so far. MrLephisto won the coin toss, looks like. I guess they're doing coin toss. Apparently, like, this wasn't really in the rules, how to handle first or second, which is kind of weird for a tournament, but hey, there you go. MrLephisto winning the coin toss, going first, will molt 2. Zoner versus Zoner. Definitely, I wonder who wins this matchup. I mean, so the thing that Sagat has is Sagat has Swift Destruction, right? Plus 4 speed. Sagat also has Massive as well, so maybe the boost game for Sagat is looking really good compared to Hilda. I'm also a big proponent of the quote-unquote kind of bad boosts. So like normally, if you look at a character like Akuma into Season 6, right? Normally that a boost like Spite, plus 1 speed hit at this to gauge, is not a fantastic looking boost, right? But that boost looks really good into a lot of Season 6 in my opinion. So Sagat has this boost, Sagat has Massive, Sagat has Swift Destruction plus 4 speed. I don't remember the other boost that Sagat has. I think Sagat has a plus 1 power now hit added to gauge as well. Something like that. So like these little tiny kind of quote unquote kind of bad boosts, they actually perform quite well into a good amount of Season 6. So this should be an interesting matchup for sure. Maybe for that reason I favor Sagat over Hilda. Not really 100% sure though. Because you can't, there are specific ranges you can't stand at as Hilda, as Sagat, right? So like for example, Hilda does have the Propeller Knight Ultra in the darkness. As we see Hilda initiate a strike into the light. Turn 1 light from Sagat, super interesting, especially because he can just play a card with plus 1 speed face up with the UA, but no, initiating or starting the game off with a range 4 lights is definitely interesting because those lights do work at range 3 into the Season 6 characters. The Assault Dive Spike mix-up, or namely the Dive Spike side of the range 3 mix-up is just so good. As we're going to see the Skewer into the LTS. Skewer will hit back for 2, and the LTS will hit back for 5. Hilda will choose to pull, and then the LTS will push Hilda back to range 4. I wonder if the LTS gets looped, and yeah, the LTS does get looped. Now we're going to see what, like an assault boost come out from Sagat. Something like that, and then Hilda's gonna have to move in. Yeah, like, what does Hilda do about low tiger shot? Hilda has... I don't even know what kind of tool she would have for low tiger shot. She has EX Revenant Pillar, I guess. I mean, 3 to 5, 5 2 5. She's Revenant. She's a Revi Pillar on offense. She has EX Condensity Gloom on defense to dodge. But low tiger shot's kind of an annoying card for Hilda to deal with, huh? As we see the charge attack come out from Hilda, plus 2 power. No retreat yet for MrLephisto, but I do have a feeling it's coming soon if he's drawn it. And we're actually just gonna see the plus 2 power get teched. Don't really need techs for very much into season 6, right? You basically tech superior. And yeah, we're actually seeing Poiman recognizing that he's gonna have to be the one to get close up into Sagat's face with the respect moving to range 2. Normally strike with cross for Sagat is just super free here. That's the problem with respect to 2. Because Triforget only catches cross at range 1. Spike is not gonna... Oh, it's actually the Tiger Knee, which will stun out the Spike. I did not expect Tiger Knee from Sagat, and clearly neither did Poiman. I don't even know what Tiger Knee does. I know it's a 1, and I know it's a 5 power, so it's stuns Spike. I think it's like if you crit it, it like pushes the opponent, maybe? I have no idea what Tiger Knee even does, full honesty. Before close to hit gain advantage. Okay, so I actually did kind of know it. It's if crit after if the opponent's stunned push 3. We're going to see potential cross catch. No, it's going to be the Triforget against the focus. Triforget will go first, hits the focus for 2 power, and then the Triforget will get hit back for 3. So Sagat building a little bit of an early lead here as far as health is concerned. Sagat also building up that second gauge. Notably, this card can be... So it's going to be the Revi Pillar at the bottom of the deck for Hilda. Hilda can add this to hand or gauge. Hilda will choose to put this into her hand and will take 3 damage from the focus. Focus will draw a card. Sagat has built 2 of 3 gauge. I do expect Sagat to flip in this matchup. Sagat doesn't have to flip in this matchup because Sagat can attempt to threaten Tiger Destruction from range with 2 gauge, as we see the power attack boosted from Hilda. So Sagat actually doesn't have to flip in this matchup. Although, like, is standing at range... I mean, Hilda has basically said that, okay, I need to be the quote-unquote closer aggression... The close character. The character that wants to be closer in this matchup than Sagat, which is interesting. Because Hilda doesn't really have great tools for that, but, I mean... I think our analysis of what does Hilda do into Sagat's range tools is pretty... So pretty telling, right? So we see the fadeaway come out from Hilda. So we'll be retreat 2, take another action. We're now standing at range 3. We're throwing out a known EX Revenant Pillar because the Revenant Pillar was taken back from hand. This is no good. You just play Assault or you just play Dive. Okay, well, I mean, Poiman is very lucky to not have just died here because, Jesus, this is such a sketchy play. Playing a known EX Revenant Pillar at range 3 speed. Just so sketchy. Really? MrLephisto had Cross and chose not to play it. Cross would have dodged it. And then you would have... This is just... Wow. Why did MrLephisto not play Cross, right? If you play Cross, Sagat ends up at range 6, and low tiger shots are just free for eternity? Question mark? Very strange. Very strange play from both sides there. On that combat. There's no reason Poiman should have struck with Revenant Pillar, and there's no reason that MrLephisto should not have crossed out there. So we see face-up Tiger Knee, 1544. Impalement will work. No, Impalement will not work there at range 2. Notably, Poiman pulled with the Revenant Pillar, so that will not work. Assault will kind of work in that it'll hit. Hilda will go first, deal 4 damage. Tiger Knee will not be stunned and will hit back for 4, and will yoink the advantage back as well. Things are looking very good for Sagat here. Hilda has a bunch of gauge, but no cards in hand. And we're going to see Sagat retreat 2 and exceed. Draw 2 cards as well. And I mean, Hilda should probably change cards here. No, it's going to opt to keep 5 gauge and just prepare instead. Back to Sagat here, who now has +1 power, +1 speed on face-up strikes. One impalement gone, so something like a face-up Tiger Shot from range 3 is looking better, although still kind of unsafe. We're going to see face-up assault. This looks to be a 1/6/6. Hilda just going to have to wild swing. Actually does get the block, luckily enough. 6 power, or 5 power assault, excuse me, 1/5/6, not 1/6/6. Hilda probably will spend 2 gauge to take nothing. Should not drop the skewer, should drop the Triforkit. I think we discussed this yesterday, but impalement, I think? No, interference. I always get those 2 cards mixed up. The Ultra, I think it's called interference. And yeah, we've had a little bit of mistake here as Sagat gained advantage of the assault. But the 3 to 8 2/6 Ultra really likes skewers in the gauge for that. So you really want to be keeping those, as we're going to be initiating with a face-up grasp 1/4/8. Sweep is an answer. Sweep will deal 6 damage back. So, I mean, decent wild swings so far for Poiman, but really just feels like he's just kind of just staying alive randomly, huh? Like, I feel like MrLephisto should have won this game a while ago with that LTS, with the cross into LTS, but not meant to be. Back to Hilda here. Hilda initiate a Rage 2 Spike. I mean, this will deal 5 damage, but then the question is then what, right? It's a then, right? So like, this Spike will do 5, but there's no viable endgame plan so far for Hilda that I can see. We're going to see a critical in response. It's going to be the critical low step kick, which will close 1, ignore guard, deal 2 damage to the Spike. Crit low step kick, not a card you see super often from Sagat. Notably, when it's face up, crit, it's a 1 to 2 3/6 ignore guard, which is a decent-ish shape, because it doesn't lose to focus anymore. But LTS, not really a card you see too often, huh? So we see MrLephisto prepare. At some point, Hilda's gonna use this gauge to CC. It's gonna be now. CC2, drawing 3, keeping 3 gauge for the Ultras. Keeping him for, I mean, Into Darkness is a 4/2/7 that costs 3 gauge. Is that really going to be the win con here? I mean, I guess you can just threaten it later. I don't know if there'll be an opportunity to threaten it later, but maybe this is okay. Sagat's turn now has 5 cards in hand. I do expect Sagat to initiate or boost, one of the two. We're going to see a critical face-up Tiger Uppercut 1/5/5/3/3. Oh no, we're actually going to see Terrifying get boosted. So this is if the opponent's at range 1, they discard 2 cards and then strike, and we're going to be striking with a Wild Swing face-up Tiger Uppercut. This is pretty spicy stuff. Does Hilda... I mean, Hilda can cross, but then the question is then what, right? Cross will do... Nobody cross will do 0 damage. It would hit, though, and... I mean, you're not getting hit back by the Tiger Uppercut, so that's probably the best you can do at this juncture. Just cross out. Yeah, that's what Hilda's going to do. Hilda's going to go back to the corner. Sagat going to take 0 damage and miss. Pretty spicy, kind of loose gameplay there from Sagat. Really didn't need to do that, but okay. And now we see Hilda boosting power attack. Now down to her top deck being In the Darkness, but maybe she's crafted her wild swings in such a way that she can do something. But this is super advantage Sagat here. We're going to see the critical Tiger Shot at speed 5. Be a 4 power Tiger Shot. Hilda being forced to basically wild swing into this. Notably, again, we were discussing this before, still loses to the other Ultra Impalement. So Focus will mitigate some damage. Focus will mitigate 2 of the damage. Hilda will discard her in the darkness. Sagat will draw a bunch of cards and get another gauge out of it as well. That power attack will drop. Focus will at least draw a card. But top deck Hilda does not look pretty, right? This is not pretty Hilda gameplay, unfortunately. As we see the power attack come out, Impalement does get drawn. So I mean, that's a 7 power Impalement waiting to happen. Unfortunately, we are playing Swift Destruction as a boost, plus 4 speed. Good luck dealing with this Hilda. Hilda just prepares, and I mean, Sagat plays Spike to win, right? Yeah. GG's. MrLephisto. New guy on the block, maybe? Question mark? Taking the set. 3-1 against Poiman will have a final record of 1-3 as Impalement gets thrown across the table. Poiman unfortunately had a bit of a rough campaign so far in this tournament. Ends up as the only player to go 0-4 in the Swiss brackets. Commiserations to him. Just maybe a little bit too resource intensive again. Too many resource intensive choices from the Hilda caused the downfall against Sagat. Although, like, it really felt like Hilda did have to stand at really awkward ranges against Sagat, at ranges that she didn't really want to stand at, which is something that we noted might happen at the beginning of the set, at the beginning of the game rather. But looked pretty awkward for Hilda, all things considered, right? And of course, Poiman had the Zangief on deck, but we did not get to see that come out. Anyway, this tournament's been done for a while. You can check out the finals. The finals happened between D and Chica weeks ago. I mean, this match also happened weeks ago, but you can check out the finals. That'll be probably the next video in the playlist. If you're interested in seeing how that went down. It actually ended up being a relatively close set, all things considered. And pretty interesting gameplay between D and Chica. You can check that out. A bunch of other videos from this tournament on the channel. Next week, Chimera Summer Bash will be starting, so we'll be casting a good amount of matches from that, hopefully. And that's like the big tournament in my eyes. That's the tournament that really matters in my eyes. With like the, you know, no shenanigans with the rule set, just pure Exceed. With this standard rule set that Exceed tournaments have been using for a while. So I'm definitely interested to see that. You can catch more of that on the channel. If you hit the subscribe button, hit the bell, you can be notified for when these videos come out. But yeah, we'll be looking for Chimera Summer Bash next week. Hope to see you guys there, and have a good one. Bye-bye.